Liechtenstein is rarely covered in the international press. No wonder. The country has only 39,000 inhabitants and spans an area less than a quarter the size of Berlin. Accordingly, very little of international significance happens in the small principality. But that is currently changing. Liechtenstein is waging a very public battle against the Czech Republic. The dispute involves territories and lands in Bohemia, which Liechtenstein still claims to this day. These lands are 4 times the size of Liechtenstein's entire current territory. The conflict is not new. For decades, both states have been locked in a legal battle over the areas. Diplomatic relations have been repeatedly severed, and both countries are now before the European Court of Justice. However, a swift resolution is not in sight. It's high time we take a closer look at this spectacular dispute. Why does Liechtenstein still claim part of the Czech Republic? How justified are these claims? And could the principality actually succeed in court? We'll examine all these exciting questions in today's video. Enjoy! Relations between the two states have been strained for over 100 years. For most of that time, they didn't even recognize each other as sovereign states. The origins of the conflict date back to the year 1918. With the dissolution of Austria-Hungary at the end of the First World War, the Czechoslovak state was formed for the first time. In October of that year, the new government implemented a comprehensive land reform that led to the expropriation of many landowners, including the House of Liechtenstein. At the time, the family owned several territories, castles, and estates in Bohemia, as well as in Moravia and Silesia. These regions are the ancestral home of the Liechtenstein noble family, first mentioned in 1136, making it one of the oldest in Europe. The properties were not only of monetary, but also of great symbolic value. However, they were nationalized and forcibly sold. Liechtenstein immediately filed a complaint, but it was largely ignored. Consequently, the principality refused to recognize Czechoslovakia as a sovereign state, and the sentiment was mutual. It wasn't until 1938 that they established indirect relations via Switzerland. But the drama was far from over. The Second World War followed, along with the breakup of Czechoslovakia. Liechtenstein, which remained neutral during the war, once again considered itself the rightful owner of the territories, as Czechoslovakia could no longer enforce its claims. After the war, the same situation repeated itself. Through the Beneš decrees, the restored Czechoslovak government once again expropriated the Liechtenstein family. The justification was that the prince and his family had declared themselves of German nationality during a 1930 census. After the war, all German properties were to be transferred to Czechoslovakia. This was an affront to the prince, who saw it as a deep insult to be considered German rather than Liechtensteinian. He also argued that the expropriation thereby lost its legal basis. He had not declared himself of German nationality during the critical period after 1929, had never been a member of any political party or group associated with German nationalism, and was demonstrably not even in Czechoslovakia during the census. Relations between the two states were frozen. But what properties are involved? Quite a few, as it turns out. A list of all expropriated Liechtenstein properties and their claims is displayed below. These include numerous plots of land, estates, businesses, hotels, and castles, along with surrounding territories. Particularly noteworthy is Valtis Castle in southern Moravia, now part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Overall, the disputed area amounts to 700 square kilometers. For comparison, Liechtenstein's current territory is only 160 square kilometers. Over the decades, the dispute led to repeated arguments and provocations. It wasn't until 2009 that Liechtenstein and the Czech Republic resumed diplomatic relations. An independent commission of historians was established to bring clarity to the situation, but their report was inconclusive. The Czech Republic refused to enter negotiations. Liechtenstein felt its sovereignty was being undermined, especially since the Czech Republic had resolved similar issues with larger states like Austria and Switzerland through negotiations. The smaller the country, the more important it is to stand up for its rights, said Liechtenstein's foreign minister, Katrin Eggenberger, to the Financial Times. The principality saw legal action as its last resort. After a lawsuit before the Czech Constitutional Court failed, Liechtenstein filed a case with the European Court of Justice in 2020. The proceedings are expected to drag on, and the outcome remains uncertain. However, constitutional lawyers believe Liechtenstein's chances are not entirely bleak.